Was that off the entire time?
Might have been.
All right. We have a light agenda today, and looking to CAO to see if there are any changes. None. I'll move that we approve the agenda for September 19th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And we will start with the delegation, B1, from Bow Valley Builders and Developers Association. Ms. Smithers, you're going to introduce our guests.
I am, thank you, yeah. So members of council, we have here with us today representation from BOWDA, the Bow Valley Builders and Developers Association. I know they have some board members in attendance today who I'm sure Ian will represent, and I think BOWDA itself needs no introduction. They are a pretty well-known and regarded entity in the community. So with that, I will just hand it over to their executive director, Ian O'Donnell, for the presentation.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell, good afternoon and welcome to Committee of the Whole.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Whitney, for the introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Ian O'Donnell. I am the executive director of the Bow Valley Builder and Developers Association. With me today is our chair, Mr. Brian Talbot. We have our vice chair, Edward Moran, here. We have a director at large, Mr. John Third, and a member as well, Donna Houston. We are thrilled to be here today, and we really are happy that you were willing to receive us. With this presentation, we will go over a few different elements of who we are, what we represent, and who we represent as well. I should preface this with, we had the pleasure of doing a similar presentation at the Municipal District of Bighorn back on May 23rd, and the town of Banff on June 12th. And with a very warm reception at both, and a very robust question period at the end of our presentation, and I hope we have one today. BOWDA is in its 28th year, and we represent approximately 244 member businesses with over 1,000 employees. Our mission, we are to advocate on behalf of the building and development community for the advancement of responsible development throughout the Bow Valley. It provides networking opportunities for its members and develops policy recommendations to ensure fair, efficient, balanced, and transparent processes. Our vision, we are to be the most respected voice in the Bow Valley for the building and development industry and its strategic partners, and to be a catalyst for positive interaction with all communities, stakeholders, and decision makers who help contribute to this great place. We are made up of a 10-person democratically elected board that runs on 2-year terms. And you can see a list of our board of directors here. Brian Talbot, Edward Moran, Michelle Ouellette, David Taylor, Guy Turcotte, Bobby Richardson, Jessica Carpat, Steve Ashton, John Third, and Darlene Jen. With our member composition, one thing that we often maybe don't share enough is that only approximately 25% of our members are builders and developers. The rest of the 75% are consultants, other professionals in the real estate industry, suppliers, trades, and others who contribute to the industry or the business community. We have a variety of committees. We have a liaison committee, we have a governance committee, we have a land use bylaw committee, engineering design construction guideline committee, offsite levy committee, a sustainability committee, a builder committee, a training committee, and most recently, and we're very proud to announce, a new housing action committee. Some of our recent work, and we're very excited to share that we've done a lot of good committee work on things such as the utility master plan, engineering design construction guidelines, various land use bylaw updates, development signage, and Canmore Planning Commission review. And we really do thank our committee members who are volunteers and support us and support board policy recommendations. We'd also like to thank administration for the work that they do alongside us, and we look forward to continuing that relationship. Our values: integrity, professionalism, responsibility, community, and leadership. They are all expanded upon in our package that you had before you, but certainly we do want to just reiterate that we are here to help. Industry is here to help. Our members are here to help. And we know sometimes we will agree to disagree, and that's the beauty of democracy and beauty of debate. But we are here to help, and foundationally we want to help. This is our last survey. It is from August 22. This was sent out to all of our members in good standing. We had about a 30% response rate, which we feel is statistically significant. And this just highlighted some of the concerns here from our members. And again, 25% of our members are actual builders and developers. The rest are supporting industry members. Of some of the issues facing the members and our industry here in the Bow Valley. The top 3 issues are around application approval timelines, anti-development sentiments, and municipal leadership. And I should preface this also that we work all throughout the Bow Valley, from about Highway 40 all the way up to Lake Louise. Labor market challenges, certainly not something that's very familiar to all of us. Again, the same survey of August 22, cost of living at the top of the list, wages and employee housing following that, and obviously a robust discussion around employee housing more recently, and thank you for that robust discussion, and we certainly look forward to working with you on future employee housing proposals. This is from the Canadian Home Builders Association. This is of the Edmonton region. It is their most up-to-date infographic, and we are looking to produce something similar for the Bow Valley, but it just was to highlight where some of the costs go into housing, and a way for you to see some of where we could improve on some of the efficiencies or some of the impacts of delaying development, or land prices and how they affect development, or the cost of inputs to housing, and the cost escalation that we see in various material costs, and where those fall within a housing delivery. One of the things we would like to do is to assist, and we want to assist and align with Canmore's strategic priorities around livability, environment, and relationships. And with livability, we know that we can help influence affordability and housing supply and the diversity of housing types here in Canmore and the Bow Valley. We also want to let you know that we're committed to best practices on the environment and sharing of information and supporting climate change initiatives, such as our upcoming electric vehicle readiness roundtable, which is taking place on the 21st later this week, or the Building for Sustainability Symposium that we're doing in November with the Biosphere and many other partners. We also strive to be solutions-based and try to work on building those relationships and be of a constructive nature and be involved from the outset. We want to be involved from the beginning. We want to help, and we want to get in there and support administration and support council as we go forward. Our ask of you is that we ensure that municipal services and functions are delivered in an efficient and effective manner, that council establishes clear policies with clear managerial directives, that interconnectivity and cooperation between council, administration, and staff is critical to what we do as a whole, and we need to make sure we reinforce that. That we have clear, predictable, reliable environments to work within, and that when you retain consultants, where possible, that they expand your capacity. And an openness to work collaboratively and with transparent communication. That we work in adherence to the Municipal Government Act and its timelines and requirements. That we find a balanced approach, representative of a variety of priorities and perspectives. And that delays, revisions, and uncertainty have significant costs directly borne by developers and eventually passed down to the end consumer, affecting affordability, eroding opportunities, and causing uncertainty within the industry. Time should always be of the essence. We want to leverage expertise around you and in the community, and industry, again, is here to help. And finally, we want to work towards yes. We want to help facilitate, and we want to work towards a relationship of yes. We also want to update you on more trends in the industry, issues facing the industry, opportunities facing the industry and the community, and provide you with regular updates so that you can make better and more informed decisions based on what you can hear from us and others. We want to make sure that we're helping develop governance and policy review for the industry and our partners, and making sure that we're keeping up our end of the bargain. We also want to make sure that we have opportunities for mentorship of our youth, mentorship of those in the community who want to get into our industry, and partner with those that are around our industry so that we can bring really robust discussion and a healthy business community here to Canmore. Finally, a reminder that our lens is one of economic, social, and environmental well-being. And we are here to support the community, and we are community builders at heart. We'd like to thank you for your time today, and just to give you an example of some of the partners that we currently work with. Again, a very good cross-section of partners and diversity of partners. We strive and pride ourselves on making sure we get out there and hear other voices in the community. And many of our members bring those voices to us through our different partnerships, including the Canmore Business Alliance. And just a reminder, we have something very exciting coming up here November 5th and 6th in Canmore. We're very proud to have the inaugural Building for Sustainability Symposium in partnership with the Biosphere. And we have a very, very robust and healthy group of sponsors and partners. I'd like to thank the town of Canmore for being a partner, and certainly look forward to putting on a really great symposium in November. And finally, I just want to touch on how we give back. In the last couple of years, we've reached out to a variety of our partners in the community with over $420,000 raised in the last decade alone. And most recently, the final total was $65,341, if I remember, for the Homelessness Society of the Bow Valley. And we were so proud of our generous members, and we look forward to putting out another expression of interest here shortly and supporting another great charity or two this fall. With that, we'll welcome any questions, and I would invite our chair, Mr. Brian Talbot, to join me up here if there's any questions or concerns.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation today. I'm going to go, first of all, to Councillor Mara.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you to your membership for your generosity in giving back to the community. I just have two questions. One, has there been any significant change or positive change since this report was done in August of 2022 in what you put down as in your asks?
We are looking at doing an updated canvassing of our members here shortly. We haven't had a chance to do it prior to this meeting, but we are looking at doing something similar, and we will certainly share that with council when we get that done and be able to compare that.
Great. And can I ask one more?
Absolutely.
And one other question. You have a new committee, you said it's called Housing Action Committee, is that correct?
That's correct.
Could you give me a little sort of view into what the agenda or what they'll be looking at doing?
Sure. We literally just crafted the terms of reference in the last couple of weeks, brought it to our board last week for discussion and approval. We have a committee composition that we've just finalized. We'll be sharing that with them. Our committee members actually don't even know that they're quite on it yet, so it's in its infancy, but we know that there's a lot of discussion around housing. We know, and we're very excited about the housing action plan the town of Canmore's put forward. We know that there's a lot of housing initiatives that the MD and the town of Banff are also working on. And we figured it was about time to just put an actual committee together to deal with that, rather than individual other committees touching on it. Let's follow suit with follow the lead of the town and put together something that is specifically around expertise in the housing and delivery of housing industry.
Thank you.
With regards to your committees, are they made up just of members of the board, or are they also members at large, or like just general members?
Typically, they are members of BOWDA in good standing. That is a requirement. However, on occasion, we do seek other partners, and so our sustainability committee is one where Gareth from the Biosphere is on it, Andrew Calder from Bow Valley Waste Commission is on it, and so we do bring in partners where appropriate, and certainly want to complement or fill some of those gaps if we need to have a sector-specific knowledge expert.
Of course. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Thank you for your presentation. One of your bullet points that struck me was the balanced conversations. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on how BOWDA ensures balanced conversations at their board level, at their membership level, and within the community at large.
Sure. We have a code of ethics that we follow, and outlined in that, and that's for our board, that's for any member that joins BOWDA, outlines respectful and diverse opinions are important to BOWDA, and we want to ensure that our members are able to express their opinions either through a committee or through myself to the board and at the board level. A democratically elected board is something that we ensure, and we went to a 2-year term only more recently to ensure some turnover, and that's healthy for a board. We've also expanded our committee structure so that we have more committee members from a variety of other membership sectors. So it's not just builders and developers. We want to make sure we have more of a matrix when we evaluate committee structures. And we certainly respect a variety of opinions around the table and want to express those. And we do share them, and we want to make sure that we have balanced conversations going forward. We know that's a healthy thing for our organization. We know that's healthy for the community. And we know in the past sometimes conversations maybe were not as balanced as they could have been. And we want to make sure that we're being transparent and balanced in how we operate as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I look forward to those conversations in the future.
Thank you, Wade.
Mr. O'Donnell, in the BOWDA member survey from August 22, you touched on the top three items, and I know what it means when it says application, approval timelines. I know what it means when anti-development sentiment. Now, with regards to municipal leadership, I'm not exactly sure what is referenced there. So do you have any sense of what it is about municipal leadership that is causing a concern?
So when we put the survey out, with this question, we did not have a follow-up box for people to expand upon. My experience with that survey was that at the time there were questions around transparency in terms of discussion at council level and predictability in terms of voting, and what we were trying to understand from where council was at in terms of their priorities and where they wanted to put focus on. And I think since August 22nd until now, I think there's a clearer picture. It was also earlier in the term, and so I think at that time too, people were still getting to know council, and that probably led to a bit of uncertainty with some of the responses.
Okay, great. Well, other councillors reach for the button if they have a question. I have another question. There have been, for some period of time now, discussions between BOWDA and Town of Canmore administration with regards to processes, and there have been some changes being implemented and done, and I know newsletters have outlined them, which is really good to keep your membership up to date. Just so we have a sense of what's made the biggest difference, what are the best changes that the Town of Canmore has implemented to date, or in the last couple of years or a few years?
Well, certainly ensuring that we get information, and so on the website, and then we're still working through the new website and some of the things we'd like to see updated or changed as everybody works through the brand new website. But certainly the development timelines on the website. And we worked with administration and with Lorna Whitney in particular to make sure that that highlighted where things were at. Regardless, working towards lowering those numbers is important, but regardless, we need to make sure that we know where things are starting from. Mm-hmm. And as we work to drive those numbers down, and we've seen a few of those go down, but we still have work to do. We still want to make sure that we have good, transparent information for our builders and developers so they know where they're starting at. And I think that was probably one of the most helpful pieces that we've seen. I would say that sharing of information, we're still being interactive and sharing a lot of good information. The engineering design construction guidelines, utility master plan, some of the land use bylaw updates. We've been working through our committee structure and reporting back to the town, and so making sure that those continue, but those are very, very important and incredibly helpful. And as we've seen, and as you've seen in your council packages, having our letters included is something that we really like to see, and making sure that our feedback is before you, but also that we've had great responses and good communication back from administration, recognizing that at times we will agree to disagree on things, but again, having a good, healthy debate and sharing information with our members. And over the last year or so, providing some of those tips to our members, and so Lauren would provide us, Lauren Miller would provide us 5 tips every few months. We've ceased that now, but some of those were really a lot of questions that we were hearing at the time, and those helped address some of those. And so again, I think it comes back to communication and making sure that we continue to have open and honest communication, and that we continue to put as much information out there to industries so that they don't have to go find it, that it's before them. They know what they're getting into. They know what timelines are looking like, and they know where to go get other information, that it's clear, it's concise, and it's reflective of what we're expecting out of the MGA.
Great, thank you very much for that. Looking to council or committee of the whole as we are right now, if there's any other questions. Councillor Hillstead.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious, when do you think you might get our local cost of a new home little model there? Like, are you guys looking into making one of those? Because I'd just be curious to see what it looks like.
We started down that path, and during the crazy escalations of the last couple of years, as soon as we started to craft one, it was out of date.
Yeah.
And that's why we deferred to more of a provincial number, and I know that is not necessarily reflective of Canmore, but again, it was just an infographic to sort of demonstrate and show where some of those input costs are, and where we might be able to find some opportunity to reduce those through efficiencies and process improvements. I would hope that we can craft something here in the fall. We have a lot of builders, developers who are keen to know about that, and I'm sure council is too, and administration. But it is a tricky graphic to put together, and we were just at the Build conference this weekend in Banff, and chatting with Canadian home builders and Build Alberta. We are hoping that we can actually come together and craft some more infographics, because it's not just yourselves that are looking for that, it's other municipalities around Alberta.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming today. We really appreciate it, and we do appreciate working with BOWDA and the building development community, and it's a much, as you say, much larger committee or community. And I do like to hear back as to what's going on and what's important to your members. So that's that communication is really important. So thank you for being here today and sharing with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity today.
Great, thank you. We'll now move to item C1, minutes from the June 20th meeting, and looking to see if there are any errors or omissions. Okay, seeing none, I'll move approval of the minutes of June 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We'll now move to Councillor updates. E1, I will just move through each section. Anybody have any questions for me? Seeing none, anybody have any questions for Councillor Faubert? Councillor Graham. I should have just asked if anybody has any questions. Any questions for Councillor Hillstead? Councillor Ma? Councillor Mera? And Councillor McCallum? All right. We'll move right through to then the council or administrative updates, F1. We'll just cut to the chase. Any questions? I have one, and that is with respect to item 2A, which is or underneath municipal infrastructure and engineering services with regards to the West Bow River Pathway. It's actually more generally about pathways. I did see a picture on Facebook of somebody deciding that maybe they can turn down there with a vehicle. I've seen similar things with the on-grade railway crossing between Sabon and Canadian Tire. And of course, we've seen that happen with people going up Palliser. And so my question is there been any thought to putting some sort of barrier that would discourage cars? Ms. Smithers.
With regard to the specific examples that you've provided, I can't say for certain, but I know that we are constantly looking for ways to improve usability and safety of the pathway system, so I can certainly provide that along to engineering as well as our TRIG group to look at if there's other areas or that they can learn from or look to improve the legibility, I guess, of.
I recognize vehicles have to go through there occasionally, whether it be for clearing or servicing or maintaining a pathway, but I was just wondering if there was something that could be a barrier. So anyway, it's something to note.
It's great feedback, and I'll pass that along to
Great,
the
thank
team.
you.
Thank you.
Councillor Graham, you have a question.
Actually, it's just a little bit of a follow-up, because I had a similar thing and sent it to engineering earlier this week. Working down at that boat launch fairly regularly, watching cars turn up that now paved pathway is a regular occurrence. I see it multiple times a day. And when I inquired to engineering, they said, it won't be a bollard in the middle, just to set expectations. Paint, signage, boulders on the side is what we will typically be using in that location. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Councillor Ma, you have a question on the administrative update.
Yeah, a question for municipal infrastructure. Point one, there's this planning development thing where to reduce the permit times, and it says under the current process, with the compliance check, less than 2% of permits are found to be non-compliant. And so I'm trying to understand, this is going to be done after the building is done? So if something is done and it's deemed out of compliance, what is the recourse there?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. So currently, when we receive a building permit, it goes, well, not currently, previously, it would go through a bylaw check first to make sure that it's compliant, because we don't want to be processing a building permit and then find out that it actually is not complying with the rules of the land use bylaw. But because we find that there is such a low rate of non-compliance, we do think that there is an efficiency to be found and a process improvement by not requiring that. So we are taking it kind of on faith that the applicants for building permits will be familiar with the rules of the bylaw and will be following those rules. So as it says in the update, this is really a pilot to make sure that, you know, we're not going to be looking at increasing incidents of non-compliance. And if there was a building to be built that we found, in fact, was not meeting a rule of the bylaw, then yes, we would have to take a look at enforcement, whether that be requiring them to reduce the building height or it's significant impact for a builder or a landowner, and for that reason we expect that they would do their due diligence ahead of time and make sure that they're submitting a building permit that's compliant with our land use rules.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, has this been, is this something that other jurisdictions have done? Or is this
Not
pilot
all
here
jurisdictions would do a bylaw check before accepting and processing a building permit.
Okay. Councillor Hillstead.
Thank you. So I see that we have an agreement for sharing of net revenue for paid parking at Quarry Lake that's been drafted and shared with the Rocky Mountain Heritage Foundation. Just curious what kind of timelines we're thinking to hear back from them, or if it's just open-ended and at some point.
Your guess is as good as mine.
All right.
I did follow up with a member of the foundation, and they were having everything reviewed by their lawyer, and they felt like it wouldn't take long. So they've had it since July, and, you know, the ball's in their court. So I know they're working on it, but they haven't indicated when they expect to hear back.
Sounds
Of
good.
course, summer and volunteers and all that,
Yeah.
I'm sure comes into play. Councillor McCallum.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to go back to the compliance review again, and just sort of see how this is played out, because I've seen how it's played out in the past. So if there's, there's two things that will happen. The town will go and make sure that the build is in compliance to the building permit, but also the RPR has a role to play in that. But not everybody requires an RPR after development, or has that changed? Is it only generally when you require a mortgage that the bank asks for an RPR, and therefore we start comparing lines?
So that's a level of detail that I would need to follow up on and get back to you.
Okay.
With regard to the update, in the admin update though, that's not about compliance with the actual building permit that's approved. It's about ensuring that whatever's submitted for a building permit application meets the rules of the land use bylaw.
Okay, so the drawings themselves, is that
Yeah.
what you're speaking of? Okay, all right. So, and then to follow through with that though, if we're not checking that, and I understand why, because it's 2%, I get that. But when it plays out in a building and suddenly the building isn't what the neighbors were sold or the community was sold, really the only option then is to do a post-development variance.
Or I am familiar with examples where at the framing stage, for example, the builder has been required to adjust what's been erected so far.
Okay, so we would expect that if there was any issues, you would find it in either the foundation or framing stage in terms of heights or setbacks, et cetera.
That we believe that we'd be able to catch it at that point. And then again, given the low rate of non-compliance, what we've heard from our own staff is that there's not a lot of concern with the risk involved with removing this step, given that it's most of the time not really adding any value to the application review process.
Okay, thank you.
So any variances, would they often be caught then at the development permit stage?
No.
We're kind of muddying, so this is really about the building permit when it's submitted,
Yeah.
taking a look at those drawings and ensuring that they're compliant with the development permit if it
Right.
was a discretionary use and there is a permit, and the land use bylaw itself. So are they submitting something that's allowed under either their previous approvals or the land use bylaw? So the variance
I'm
would...
sorry if I'm not catching it. It just seems to be counterintuitive to me. Like, I thought that that's what the submitting it would be for, is to make sure that it's in compliance with the bylaw.
We would expect that an applicant for a building permit would be familiar with the rules of the bylaw and would be submitting a building permit application that is compliant with the rules. And as we're finding, over 98% of the time, that is the case.
Okay. Look forward to hearing how the pilot goes. Thank you.
Me too, thank you.
Councillor Ma?
Thank you, Your Worship. This was a pretty hot topic near the end of the summer, people commenting on the smells. How do you collect an odor sample?
You don't want to know. You don't want to see how sausage is made.
By hiring a company that does it. No, it's, as it says in the document, there are H2S sensors that are collecting data at various locations around the water treatment plant. And we are coming forward with a report. We expect it'll be here, but in front of council by the end of the year, and they'll be more than able to answer any of the questions that you have.
That'll be
at that
part of the
point.
budget process, correct?
There is a placeholder in the budget for the actual construction of mitigation measures. This is really, the report right now is determining
To change
what
the
the
scope?
problem we're fixing is, yeah.
So to amend the scope would likely be coming to us to
Yes.
provide the detail.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Looking to committee of the whole to determine if there are any other questions on the administrative update. Seeing none. Any questions around the council resolution action list? And there as well, and of course, there's the correspondence. I will now move that we adjourn. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Right?